things, and then there has to be a motion on the floor for you guys to discuss it, and then even if the motion is favorable and that's not the way you want it to go, you still have the discussion there, and amendments can happen, and vote, and have your decision. I would anticipate tonight to be that way, but any others, they're appealed to Superior Court.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, David. You're over here.
Dear.
Yep.
I'm Todd.
I have some
David.
run by 17s of the site plan. I was meant to have a large format one, but my plotter wasn't working.
I have 1x7.
Oh, they have a
packet.
I wasn't sure.
I mean, it's just the site plan and the landscape.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all. Just wanted to go over kind of what the overall.
Oh, okay. Got it.
plan that will be considered in the future, but just let them know where's coming.
I guess in the future, there might be TVs. We might be able to project it up if we knew ahead of time, like for another project or something.
Yeah, okay.
We can always do a run through outside of the meeting.
Okay.
See how it works if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll remember that for next time.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I haven't been in here in so many months, so I like forgot there were TVs that work as monitors. And I think you've done some presentations using the old
Yeah,
projector,
yeah.
haven't you?
Well, no, I haven't used the projector.
never did that one
I
here?
just brought in some
Oh,
boards,
okay.
yeah. Once or twice, I haven't.
Okay. That was always fun, the projector. So you're sitting there with the mouse, show it up on the wall. And hopefully we got that router. Yeah, I don't know. Tara's having some difficulties getting logged in.
Is it still giving you problems?
You get it figured out, Tahira? Didn't let you in?
Yes.
Oh, finally. Yeah, it's like something reset everybody, so it doesn't recognize any of us, so it's got to go through all the, hey, okay, I don't know. Hopefully it won't happen again after that.
IT people never worry about their job. They're always
That's right.
in demand. My son hates it when he comes around. I'm like, "See, look at my phone."
That's what I have to do when I go home to my parents. Is there a meeting link, Tahira? Just texting and saying, could somebody send me a version of tonight's meeting?
Michael Schwartz.
Has joined.
I emailed him the instructions.
Where's the YouTube? Is there a YouTube link? You can see the camera. Is this what he's wanting to do?
YouTube to Wasilla City.
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Just go to Wasilla City Council.
Correct. Yeah. You send him the instructions. You have to call him. Somebody call him. Tell him how to get to it.
I have no idea.
Oh, you should be able to go on the meeting floor.
Did I take the meeting?
Oh, yeah, that's how you do it.
Doing, Melvin?
I don't think I met you.
Hi, I'm Todd.
Todd,
Nice to meet
Melvin.
you. Nice to meet you, Melvin.
See, simple training like that would be really good for you. Onboarding stuff. How are you?
Suck my blood out. Take care of that. I assume this is where she put them. You ready? Good evening. I'd like to call the regular Planning Commission meeting of October 11th to order at 6 p.m. Will the clerk please take roll?
Commissioner Seals,
Present.
Commissioner Sajel,
Present.
Commissioner Burney, Commissioner Stafford,
Present.
Commissioner Bushnell.
Present. All right. Puts you on the spot. Commissioner Stafford, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, do you push?
Yeah. Yeah, I just failed to do it. All right. So, Commissioner Stafford, this is your first meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So before we get started, it's not on my agenda, but I've done this to everyone that's come in. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, my name is Todd Stafford. I've been a resident of Wasilla since 1996. I currently work for Prison Fellowship and run a program at the Palmer Correctional Center. I did spend 10 years working for Alaska Air Balancing. We test and adjust commercial heating and ventilation systems, and I worked in their office as the cost estimator.
Cool. Thank you. Welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
All right. Does the commission have any adjustments to tonight's meeting agenda? If the commission would like anything discussed under the consent agenda, such as the minutes, that will be pulled out and put under new business at this time. Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented. We'll start with reports. Do we have a report from the city deputy administrator? Yay.
Do I have to have this on?
You do. Is there anybody online?
I think the attorney.
Yes, good evening. Michael Schwartz from Burt Thornton.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Good evening.
Okay, Crystal Nygaard with Deputy Administrator for the city, and my primary function is economic development. So just give you an update, we did make an award to McKinley Research Group for the SETS, which is the 5-year plan for the city. And we will have a kickoff, a summit kickoff Friday, the 4th of November at Evangelos from 11 to 2:30. We're expecting 75 people or so to be a part of that. We have about 2,600 business license right now in the city of Wasilla, both operating either inside the city limits or outside. We just completed, in cooperation with MEA, a grant to extend the power from Clap over to the other side of the airport.
Going up Mac there, or just
It's-
out the airport?
It's gonna go past the gravel pit, Matt Ketchum's gravel pit, and it's gonna go under the creek and then up over to the airport, so we'll have power on that side.
You'll be very happy.
I think that there will be quite a few, and it
There'll be quite a few people that'll be happy along that
yeah,
side.
and it is building redundancy into our airport for the increased activity we're anticipating that will have the power. We also are working with MTA with this, what they call the U.S. Rural Development Project. It's all kinds of software startup companies that are looking to export their programmers to rural cities to live. And so we had 16 startups that we talked with about, it's Wasilla, MTA, and the school district. And we're really trying to have an ear for what they want to see, because they want walkability and they want to ride their bikes. And so we're trying to identify what part of town we can meet those needs. And then the Arctic Winter Games at the Menard Center, we will do the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony and girls hockey. So that's Arctic Winter Games. Some other projects that just kind of have your ear to the market is we're exploring ways to work with the city of Palmer in accessing possible pressure if we lose our pressure again, like we did with the windstorm with our utilities. So we're engineering some of those preliminary options.
That's for the water pressure?
Water pressure, yep. We are in the process of updating our hazardous mitigation plan, which is a requirement for some of these infrastructure projects that we need to find funding for, so we're working with FEMA on that. We did receive $754,000 from FAA for the airport expansion project. That's to update the master plan and start the development of the apron. And we are also completing what they call a feasibility study for a terminal out there to offer support to the airport. We were contacted by our congressional delegation in Washington about a terminal grant that would pretty much fund a majority of it. And we are eligible as a small airport, so we're exploring that with Public Works. And just two other things to know, we have $5.5 million appropriated for wastewater upgrades, which is severely needed. We are going to have to start thinking about upgrading that master plan for our wastewater and our water, because it hasn't been updated for a while. And then we continue to see sales tax increasing a little bit every month, which is good for this time. The only other things to just keep in mind is we are in the final legs of approval for what they call a technology partnering agreement with the borough, and that's going to allow us to use some of their GIS and mapping capabilities without us going and purchasing that, as well as problem reporter for the potholes that exist. Sometimes they don't know if it's our road or the borough's road. And then we did a city priority letter to Murkowski's office. She wanted that by the 30th of what our priorities this year for capital investments. And last thing is we did get called by Amazon, which was great, asking us about how we could potentially offer them some options out at the airport. We've had a couple hotel chains that want to open a couple franchises here, and then some food chain stores. So that's good when they're calling. Now if we can just find property, right? So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you have a report for us?
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay. Has the city, as the new Public Works Director started?
Yes, today.
Oh, that's why he's not here. Okay. All right. We'll give him a break on his first day. All right. City Planner, do you have a report for us?
I have a brief report, just since we haven't met in quite a few months. The Landscape Committee's been working hard. Their last meeting was last night, or their most recent meeting was last night. Their last meeting will actually be November 14th. They've gotten through a lot of the code. They've come up with some suggestions. They've been tasked with going through the remainder of the meat of the code and coming up with recommendations for that last meeting. So after that meeting, staff will work on compiling that information, getting it to the Planning Commission in a report form. You'll most likely see that in January.
Yay.
The downtown parking, unfortunately, is languishing a little bit with all the other projects that are going on. But I'm anticipating that it will show back up on the agenda in January for committee of the whole discussions. The next meeting for the Planning Commission is currently scheduled for November 3rd, but we have a late bloomer coming in, one last project looking to expand some commercial buildings. So you may be seeing an email go out to look to reschedule it to November 15th to accommodate it. So if anybody knows they have a conflict now for November 15th, let me know. Otherwise, I'll send you an email to see if that would be a problem. The week before Thanksgiving, but after Veterans Day. So hopefully that would work out, and that way they can get going this year. Shut out. Other than that, I think that's all that I have to report.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to open up the public participation portion of the meeting at this time. Anybody wishing to step forward, discuss anything that is not on the agenda, please write your name on the sheet provided up front. State your name into the microphone for the record, and whether or not you live in the city limits would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Brown? No? Okay. There's your chance. Seeing that no one is stepping forward to sign in at this point in time, we will, the next item is our consent agenda. So I will need a motion from the commission to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Sage, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Seals, seconds.
All right, I have a first and a second, motion and a second. If there are no objections, hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented. Mrs. Crawford, would you please introduce item 1 and provide your staff report?
Certainly. For the record, Tina Crawford, City Planner. The one and only item on our agenda under public hearing is conditional use permit number 22-03 and the associated resolution 22-03. The applicant is Tim Alley with the J Company, representing the property owner. It's listed as Matsu Industrial Group, LLC. The request is to obtain approval to construct a 22,000 square foot building containing 24 condominium garage units that'll be made available for personal use and storage for things including large recreational vehicles and boats. The lot in question for approval tonight is approximately 7 acres, just under 7 acres. Addressed is 950 East Horvath Drive, which is off South Robert Street. In your package, beginning on page 5, you have the staff report. I'll give a little bit more background than I typically do for the new commissioner. We have a conditional use that comes before the planning commission. There are general approval criteria that the staff provides findings for. The applicant also provides finding, and then the commission determines whether they agree that they have been met, and if they have, then the conditional use can be approved. The commission also has the authority to adopt conditions of approval to ensure compatibility, and appropriate screening and any additional standards above and beyond the code that they feel are necessary for that type of development, to deal with the impacts from that development alone, not to address any other deficiencies in the area, but anything that might be caused by that. So, like I said, in your package, starting on page 5, you have all of those criteria. This is in an area that's zoned commercial. It's surrounded by commercial zoning on all sides. And as reflected in the staff report, all the criteria are met. There is a site plan. You have the zoning map on page 13, an aerial map on page 14. Then the site plan on 15 and the landscape plan on 16. Those are 11 by 17 pullouts. It's pretty basic, and it's a storage unit. They do have the requirement that parking is not an issue for this type of development, so you won't see the typical parking lot on there. And then the conditions of approval are your resolution that is drafted at this point in time in an affirmative to approve the development. It begins on page 73 in your package, and it has this fairly standard conditions of approval. There are a couple other minor ones to deal with, some, like I said, minor revisions to the landscaping or site plan, but that'll be addressed at the time after this public hearing when they submit their plans, the final plans. The first one is just the typical condition that the development has to be consistent with the site plan and elevation drawings attached to this plan. Any substantial modifications have to come back to the commission for their review and approval. The city planner can approve minor modifications. They do need to submit the required clearing and grading plan. That's the second condition. The third one is dealing with breaking up the facade of the building that faces Horvath. It just needs to provide some trees, shrubs, perennial flowers, and boulders. So that's a minor one. The fourth one is that they submit their landscape guarantee prior to vertical construction. The fifth one is that all of the landscaping and landscape construction requirements such as curbs have to be installed consistent with WMC 16.33.050F. That's when it gives them the timing for grants and that kind of infrastructure. Number 6 is that the borough fire marshal has to review for consistency with building codes and fire codes. Number 7 is that the applicant has to coordinate with City of Wasilla Public Works Department to obtain any water and sewer connection permits. Number 8, any signage has to be submitted via a separate permit. And number 9, after completion of the structure, they're required to submit the as-built survey. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know the applicant is here also. Other than that, that's my report.
All right, do any of the commission members have any questions for Mrs. Crawford at this point in time? I do. Commissioner Bushnell here. I noticed, and it comes up on some projects, and I'll ask the applicant about it as well, this development is in the core of a larger commercial project or commercial area that, of course, I know lots of people have always said who is going to be, and now it's not. Now I know for sure it's not. My question is, there's nothing in here that talks about any traffic or anything like that. Is there any requirements under the code that are not in here that we talk about? This seems like a low impact use as far as car numbers and stuff like that. It's because it is storage. But is that anything that was triggered that I missed here?
No, it is. It does not have. There are estimated trips that are generated based on the use type, and this one you have to reach 100 average peak daily trips to trigger a TIA or additional research. This particular phase alone will not trigger any requirement.
Okay.
Future phases you may end up seeing that TIA be a part of it, but not for this particular phase.
Okay. First in is benefit. All right. Do any of the commissioners have any questions after my question? No. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Crawford. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation on conditional use permit 22-03? Once again, please.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Tim Alley. I am the civil engineer for this project. I'm with the Boutte Company. We were hired by the Wasilla Industrial Group, who actually is a similar group to the Sun Mountain Development Group. So very, very similar ownership structure there. But basically, yeah, this is the first phase of a mixed-use development across the three tracks there, being Lot A, 17, A16, and Tract A, shown on the site plan there. This is, like I said, the initial phase. There's a couple reasons for the way they're starting this out. One is to gauge the demand for these garage units. This is a 24 unit, basically just a bunch of garages back to back. These are really popular in Anchorage for people to store boats, RVs. They also use them for hobbies or other things like that. You set them up as a shop kind of thing. I've also seen them as kind of a rec room for a club. One in general had, or one in particular had like a golf simulator in there and a pool table and stuff like that. So pretty broad range of uses for it. I believe the developers will be putting in some CC&Rs for this this development. But yeah, again, this is the first phase. It'll be one 22,000 square foot building. We have laid out up to a total of 6 of these. Although I don't know that we're going to be building out. Again, we're trying to get demand. It would all be kind of located right here, central of these 3 lots. And any further phases are going to be coming back to you guys for review and approval. But more than that, there's also, they got quite a bit more development planned. I apologize, I don't have a larger version of this. I was trying to get that done, but my large format printer was not working. So over here on the west side or east side, along Robert Street, they're planning for mixed commercial retail office space, looking into the demand that they're going to have there. We have they have some prospective tenants there. But yeah, mainly be, hair salons, that kind of thing, or office space. Particularly, they've got some interest for some contractor type warehouse, office combination type stuff. And then also potential for having some restaurants, just kind of depending on how they get that. But again, that's, we're still planning that, and we'll be coming back to you guys for approval for any further phases for this. So that's the eastern portion here. The western portion over here, up here in the corner, they're looking at potentially some multifamily development up there, potentially. Otherwise, it would be office space or retail as well. Potentially some warehouse, trying to localize, use the land as best fit, and being that that's kind of all the way interior, not very good sight from major roads and stuff like that. It would most likely be either multifamily or warehouse area. And then again, down here on the southern border, where our neighbors down there to the south, I believe that's Troy Davis that was building that, if I remember right, has put in a road there. We're going to be working with him to use that for access as well. And overall, this will be replatted into one overall lot, and then potentially having 5-acre lots, or 3-acre lots, along the bottom there. Again, that would probably be for some larger buildings, warehouses, but also on the same side, it is a little bit visible from the Paul and Wasilla Highway, so there's potential for some larger commercial development there. Still in the planning phases, but wanted to kind of give you guys the general idea for the whole development, and show that's going to be more than just these storage units. Again, and those are being selected to be right in the middle. Not very good visibility from the roads, so not the best spot for some, retail or something like that. So, but yeah, in general, that's the gist of the development. Just trying to get this first portion going. They have some interest in these right now. They have a tenant or a developer working in association with them to get this thing moving. So they've already got this kind of this deal in place, so they want to get going on it. But as we move forward with the rest of it, we're going to be coming back and let you guys know what we got going on.
All right. Thank you very much. At this point in time, we'll open up the public comment portion of the public hearing. It's now open for conditional use permit 22-03. If there's anyone wishing to speak on the item, you'll have 5 minutes to provide your comments. Please write down your name and contact information on the sign-up sheet and state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes to provide your comments. And also, please let us know whether you live inside the city limits or not. Please let us know if you live inside the city limits or not.
Good evening. My name's Larry Fissick, and I do live inside the city limits. We have the building at the end of Horvath, and I love the idea of getting that property developed, and what's being done there, I think, is a great use of that land. My question is, when we built the road, we didn't put a turnaround in the road, and it doesn't get maintained by the city. So, and I couldn't tell when I was going through the plans whether there was a provision for a turnaround where it's going to be maintained, or if I'm going to have to continue to maintain the road.
That'll be something that when the applicant comes back up, maybe he can address, or one of the commission members can redirect the question for you.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this subject? All right. Since there are nobody else, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. At this point in time, I'd like the applicant to come back. At this point in time, you can address any comments that were made during the public hearing, And once you're done with that, we'll see if any of the commission members have any questions for you.
Good evening. This is Tim Halligan. And Larry, thank you for coming. I got your voicemail this morning and just didn't get a chance to get back to you, so I apologize for that. But thank you for showing up. And I totally understand your concern there, and I really didn't know that that was not being maintained by the city at this point. We will work with the city to make sure we have a turnaround that's going to be acceptable to them, and hopefully get that, the maintenance taken over at that. At the time that this gets developed. We are having a turnaround there, which would be as a hammerhead with the access, which would typically meet the requirements for the fire department, but I'll have to work with Public Works and see if that's going to work for them with plowing equipment. Eventually, the plan is to extend that road all the way over into the northern portion of this other lot here with a turnaround. But yeah, it was just not planned for this particular stage of the development. So yes, we would be willing to work with Public Works to make sure, as it is a public right of way, to see what needs to happen to have it get turned over to the city for maintenance, or borough, whoever owns that one. I think that was city road though. But
Oh, okay. Anything else?
no, I think that's it.
So I have before you go ahead and stay, because we have a few more questions, but I have a quick question for Mrs. Crawford. Do you know if Horvath is a public, private, state, DOT? Whose road is it?
It would be a city road, because it's in the city limits, not borough, it's not a state road. What I don't know is if it's privately maintained or maintained by the city. That part of it I don't know,
Okay.
but it would be a city road.
Okay. So depending on what kind of agreement is on it at the moment. Okay. All right. So not something we're going
And
to.
it is a platted, dedicated right of way.
Okay.
So it's a city road.
Okay. All right. Tim, I did have a question for you, because you mentioned mixed use.
Yep.
And you elaborated onto the other lots.
No.
So that is a concern, because this is being approved as a storage garage type unit. Is that, and I guess this is also a question, I'm going to take this back to Mrs. Crawford on our use, because I asked about the car uses, but if these become retail spaces, that's not garage storage.
Correct.
And I just wanted to clarify that, correct? And we're on the same page?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
so as we move forward, and we'll be looking at traffic impacts, and I am aware of the issues that the development to the south of us had, and that they had to make a new access onto the Pond Wasilla. So I do know it's under scrutiny, so we definitely be.
Well, and I guess
And we did it before with Sun Mountain, when we started getting to a point where
right.
we got enough.
I guess my question is, you mentioned that they would have to come up with some CC&Rs. And I do know a little bit about the ownership group. They do understand real estate to a certain extent, but as far as the use restrictions, because commercial, depending on is this similar to a garage town?
Yes.
say?
Yeah.
So they'll have certain things, but are they going to be allowed to sleep there? Are they going to put restrictions on that? As far as that, is this place, because
Yeah.
that's sometimes
Right,
what you see with those.
Yes, and these are definitely not intended to be dwelling units to have people staying in there.
Okay.
That puts it under, I think, another code review for fire code and all that kind of stuff. No, they don't want to get involved with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know some of the issues that Garage Town ran into.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. Andrew Ingram is the realtor for this, and is actually been pushing on me to get this thing in, and I know we've talked about it. I haven't gotten a draft of any of those yet. And I think it's just because we're a little bit on the early side of this, but yeah, that is the intent.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I can add there.
Sure.
When you look at the title of the resolution, it states that it's to construct or condominium garage units for personal use and storage. But if there's a concern about dwellings, although doesn't say dwelling units, which means it's not allowed if it doesn't say you can do it. The commission should certainly, if there's a concern about how it's utilized, no commercial uses, that kind of thing, those are appropriate conditions of approval to add to this reso rather than relying on CC&Rs. And the reason for that is the city doesn't enforce CC&Rs. So we would be enforcing it as it's written today. So if there's concerns about that potential morphine, then I would suggest adding them as conditions.
Yeah,
Because the way it's written, it's not intended
Right.
to allow retail use, it's personal use, which means, I know Mr. Alley mentioned about, a club and they hang out and they do this kind of stuff. But that would have to be an unofficial, non-commercialized, I just got a group of friends and we're all hanging out doing darts. That's personal use. If I'm charging a membership or you gotta pay to come here and play, that's not allowed.
that's when the city would step in and say no.
Yes,
Stop.
yeah, you're violating your approval.
I would prefer to just leave it as that. I just wanted to make sure, when you mentioned the use, I'm familiar with the use of that because one company used to work for the ownership. He had a private garage. He kept a lot of stuff there and he held parties for the company there. But it was his personal stuff. So if that's what you're referring to, and that's great. It's when you got into the games and things like that, where that language starts to lend me down
Yeah, I get
retail
you.
side
I get
of
you.
it, and that's not storage.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, and that there's no intent to have retail or, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted it on the record as part of the
Absolutely.
conversation, as far as our conversations.
Yeah.
I've spoken enough. Do any of the other commission members have any questions for the applicant or for the planner?
I've got a question. How large are the units?
There's a couple different sizes. The ones towards the center are a little bit wider. You can see the doors are spaced out a little bit more. So 25 feet. Those ones in the middle are 25 feet wide, and then there's 1, 2, and 2 on the ends. There's 2 in the middle and 2 on the ends. They're 25 feet wide, and then the rest are 20 feet wide, and then they are all 50 feet deep.
Okay.
Yep.
And earlier you mentioned that people may be using them like as a shop. What type of activity? I mean,
in my mind, I was thinking like you have like a hobby, you have your hobby set up in there kind of thing, whether it be woodworking or, something along those lines. Nothing industrial, it's not the intent.
okay.
And I may have, that's what I've seen them used for. I guess maybe I misspoke a little bit in that I don't know exactly what the developer, I know that they, it's primarily for toy storage. But they would be willing, for certain, they would be willing to allow certain types of uses like that. But in general, it would be like, having your garage at home for larger recreational vehicles, or then also, space to do, have your tool set up to do hobbies or whatever. Potentially. I mean, that's just a thought, I guess, there. Not necessarily that it will be used that way, but I guess maybe we need a little bit more.
Yeah, I just would wonder what's the scope, because, I mean, you say shop, it's kind of...
Yeah, not like, not working on your vehicle. There's no intent, like, there's not gonna be, we don't want floor drains in there where your people are draining oil and all that kind of stuff. That's not,
Okay.
that's not the intent.
All right.
Working on vehicles, that's not what they're looking to have
All right.
down there. And particularly for any sort of commercial use, definitely not, no, we don't want people, any sort of, clients or customers coming in, not supposed to be a storefront or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Thanks. No more questions.
And if I could remember each of the commissioners, when you speak, make sure you introduce yourself so that when they're taking the minutes later, they know exactly who was talking.
Okay.
It just helps. All right. Any other this Commissioner Bushnell, any other questions for our applicant?
Commissioner Stafford. So is there going to be water sewer hookups within each unit?
Yes, there's a plan to have a bathroom in each unit.
Okay.
And then there is going to be, we haven't finalized it yet. They're talking about potential dump station for RVs there outside, just a single one, not in each unit. And then hose bibs for hooking up for water. But not, very small use of water and sewer, yeah.
Okay. And would a tenant rent these space, or you said the word condominium? Would you purchase your garage, or is it just month-to-month rentals?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both, if I remember right. But yeah, potentially having it to be they're trying to see where the market demand is with that, whether or not renting it's going to be more lucrative for them, or actually purchasing or selling them outright for whatever the market rate would be. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Bushnell here. Tim, the ones in Anchorage though are condo based, so they own.
They own it.
Person buys walls in, and then the association basically takes care of the rest and bills them accordingly. Correct?
Okay.
That's the business model.
I think so, and I think that's the way they're leaning for this, that they be purchased, but I know they had talked about having them as leases as well. Yeah, I have to follow up with the developer to find out what their actual plan would be, yeah.
Fair enough. Any further questions? All right. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I need a motion to either approve or deny conditional use permit 22-03, resolution serial number 22-03.
Commissioner Seals, I make a resolution that we accept, make a motion that we accept Wasilla Planning Commission resolution serial number 22-03, a resolution of the Wasilla Planning Commission approving conditional use permit number 2203 to construct a 22,000 square foot building containing 24 condominium garage units for personal use and storage, including large recreational vehicles and boats. The property is located at 950 East Horvath Drive, Township 17 North, Range 1 West, Section 10, Lot A 016.
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Sajal seconds.
All right, we have a motion in front of the commission on this item. It's been seconded and approved. Since Commissioner Seals made the motion to have it approved, I'll leave that open to you for discussion. Start discussion.
I think this is a great idea for the area and the land.
Speaking.
Commissioner Seals, I think this is a great idea for the land use in that area.
Further discussion from our commission members? All right, then. I'm missing my piece of paper. Let me see if there's one place. It's buried in mine. So at this point in time, there's nobody online, it's just the four of us, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point in time, I'm going to call for the vote and ask for a roll call vote. That'll be the easiest.
Commissioner Seals,
I concur.
Commissioner Sajal,
Yes.
Commissioner Stafford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bushnell.
I approve. The Wasilla Planning Commission approves resolution serial number 22-03, a resolution of the Wasilla Planning Commission approving the conditional use permit number 22-03 to construct a 22,000 square foot building containing 24 condominium garage units for personal use and storage, including large recreational vehicles and boats. The property is located at 950 East Horvath Drive, Township 17 North, Range 1 West, Section 10, Lot A 016. Thank you. All right. We will move on to unfinished business. There is none at this point in time. Did you guys look at the communications in the packet? Do you have any questions or comments?
None at this time. Commissioner Seals, none at this time.
No questions. No comments. Commissioner Sejo.
Commissioner Stafford, no comments at this time.
All right. Then at this time, we're going to go to audience comments. End of the evening, if there's anyone in the audience wishing to provide comments, you may speak about whatever you like for 5 minutes, then we'll shut it down.
3 minutes.
Hey, I was trying to, just give a little extra.
It scares them 5 minutes.
Some of these guys
You
would need more. Yeah, 5 minutes is not enough. Yeah.
Do I need to go back up here?
You do.
Okay. Just something that's been on my mind.
I need to.
Okay, right in again?
No, you just need to introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Larry Fisick. So, one of the things that we've asked about in the past, and it hasn't gone anywhere, is that tunnel that goes from, was that Railroad over to Wasilla Park?
Park.
Yes, and I know there's been issues with the pump and that type of thing, but I think that would be a great benefit to the folks that live in that area, all the folks that are in the condo area, to provide safe access to the grocery store and the other side where you can get and do some things. And I know I've been disappointed that we haven't seen any progress with getting that tunnel opened up in the last couple of years. So I just a comment, don't know where it's at, but I'd like to just throw it out there to see if it could be looked into.
So you made a comment, you didn't know where it was going. Is it supposed to get moved somewhere?
Hmm?
Just kidding. Kidding, Mr. Fisick. Real estate humor. Or lack of it.
Really bad.
That was under comments, but City Planner, do you know, I've heard mixed things on the tunnel this summer. I've had some conversation with different people. It was my understanding that the tunnel is now open, or is that misinformation? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I do not know what the status is. I also have indicated it would be a great asset for connecting that side of the highway to downtown, and especially with the train depot going there, but I know that there are infrastructure issues. I don't know where it is, but we can certainly pass it on to the new Public Works Director and administration and bring back a report.
Okay. Yeah, I'd asked that of somebody earlier, not in this room, and I was told that it was open and operational, but I'm seeing shakings of heads that it's not. So, does anybody else from the public wish to speak? All right. Then I'd like to move on to staff comments. Nobody wants to talk. All right. Commissioner comments.
No comments at this time, Commissioner Seals.
Commissioner Sejo, no comments.
Commissioner Stafford, no comments.
Oh, then Commissioner Bushnell has to make comments. Now, I will just I'm just going to make this real short. The commission is looking for another member that would start in January, because Commissioner Bushnell will no longer be on the commission after December. It has been 5 or 6 years, 4 years? What are the terms?
I think it is 6.
6 years, so it's been a while. It's been a pleasure. We've got 2 meetings. Got plenty of work that is out there for you guys to work on the landscaping. Got that started for you so you guys can wrap all that up in a meeting or 2.
Yeah, sure.
I think I just broke this chair. There we go.
You can take it with you.
And then the parking issues. But it's been a pleasure. I've got one or 2 more meetings, and then I'll sit out there and watch you guys have fun. So without further ado, at 6:43, we'll call the Planning Commission of October 11th adjourned.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
The drama is when we have bunnies. Yeah, when we talk about rabbits.
Mental sport.
Yes, that's when we really need to know if they live in the city limits or not. That's where that question.
Yeah, I'll see what we can do about getting that.
Oh, no, I gotta be out connecting.
She decided to take a vacation, come down here where it's not, it's a lot colder environment.
Involuntary
What were you looking for specifically?
I think we should do some kind of involuntary
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You came back after 5, I'm not sure you were just hanging around. Oh, I thought you meant you showed up tonight, and you were like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to figure that out, because these guys would have to pay the portion going up the side. Ideally, it wouldn't happen. The city is gonna get water.
I saw that memo. I was talking about involuntary extension.
Yeah, so, but the sewer